Hi, welcome to Unrestricted View Film Festival. And today with Meet the Director, we're meeting Lewis Chan, the director of Stationary. Hi, Lewis, how are you?
I'm very well, very well. Just enjoying my tropical background.
Yeah,
How
I
are
know.
you?
It's lovely, isn't it? Lockdown in paradise. Fantastic. Yeah.
Whatever you can do, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you as well as directing the film, you wrote it as well.
hmm
So, just give us some idea where where the idea came from. What made you think of this script?
I think the main thing for me was that was interesting was the idea of taking sort of certain personality traits which are naturally attributed to either masculine characters or feminine characters on screen and trying to subvert them as much as possible. So I wanted to really almost assess it as, let's look at it as one character, and if we broke up their personality traits and separated them, how would they look?
Yeah.
And I really wanted it to be something which is about identity, about friendship as much as possible, and hopefully something that people can relate to.
Yeah. No, no, and it was fascinating. I really, really, like I say, I really enjoyed the film.
Thanks.
But how difficult? I mean, obviously, majority of it is. I'm not going to give too much away, but the majority of it was filmed sort of in a car. So,
hmm
I mean, that must have posed some difficulties. You
It
know.
did. It did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because I was very much trying to see what I could do with a script that takes place almost within one confined space. And can you make that engaging? And I thought it would also help me in terms of budget. If I keep it to a smaller location, it would be a bit easier. I wouldn't have to deal with the council and all these different things. It turned out to be possibly even more difficult. Just from a camera perspective, or the different angles that you can try and find. And my DOP Samira Oberberg, she's amazing, and we sat down and we sort of thrashed out so many different times of how can we tell this story visually as we move through the narrative and try and sort of lead the audience a little bit with what we're trying to say just through the camera angles. But where can we actually get it? We specifically had to get a car with a sunroof so we could get certain shots that we wanted there for lighting purposes.
Mm.
Behind the headshots, like everything that we could do without it becoming superfluous in terms of just style over substance. So it was very much meant to be something which is helping build that narrative as we move forward. But yeah, no, there are sort of subtle shifts that we make throughout the film. The positioning of where they are in the car themselves. There's a point in the middle of the film, without giving too much, where the main, I don't even want to say antagonist because she's not really that, but let's say the secondary character moves into the front seat, so they're almost at a level playing field. Let's say when previously she's been sat behind the lead character, and things start to come to a head, about halfway through the film because of that. So yeah, lots of little decisions, and it was difficult. The first day we had to deal with a storm, which was not on the weather forecast at all, and I mean a serious Amazonian sort of style rainforest storm.
Okay.
And so that's why at the beginning of the film everything is very rainy. So we just sort of had to roll with it, and I think it added actually to
Yeah.
our end product. But yeah, lots of challenges. It was very hot, having to keep the
I
actors
imagine, yes.
hydrated.
Sound issues with rain, Amazonian
Yeah,
rain must have been
yeah,
something. Yeah.
that was pretty intense. It was okay because the beginning of the film was very much more observational, so there wasn't any real sort of dialogue for that sequence. So we managed to get away with that. But we had a very good team on the day, and everyone was much more experienced than I in terms of the technical departments, let's say. So they weren't phased by very much.
Oh, fantastic. Um, yeah, I mean, it really was. I mean, I think I read on your sort of film pre-waiting, you shot it on an Arri.
Yeah, we
So
did on an Alexa
I
Mini.
think, yeah, the whole thing looks just beautifully shot as well. I mean, hats off to your DOP as well.
Thank you,
Samira,
thank you.
Samira?
Samira,
Samira,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But also, I mean, just again, because the car situation, I mean, for the actors, that must have been quite an interesting thing. Because obviously, I imagine one of them had to be out of the car when the three of them were in there, whenever you were shooting, sort of from the different
Yeah,
angles.
yeah, we tried to keep them in the car as much as possible whenever we could. So there are
Yeah,
some scenes where the Jimmy, the lead character, is talking to Gino, our third main character, let's say, and they're in the front, and we would put the camera almost straight in front of the actor's face, so
yeah,
that at least they had an eye line that they could
yes,
talk to. But sometimes it really wasn't possible, and luckily Samira is quite petite, so she could get into sort of nooks and crannies in the car, which was already a hatchback, which isn't the biggest in itself.
Yeah.
That I reckon other DOPs would not be able to get into. So yeah, everything sort of fell into place a little bit. But yeah, no, we just tried to be as creative as possible, and the actors were great. I remember in our behind the scenes, Aaron, our lead actor, he was talking about how he really liked it because it reminded him of sort of the box theatre stuff that he used to do,
Right.
and everything, being very up close and personal, almost taking away that layer of the screen that you feel, and it feels almost like you're doing a theatre thing. The crew is completely surrounding the car. It very much is almost like a pressure cooker kind of feeling. So hopefully that comes across in the film, and it adds to that character.
Absolutely. And I think just the claustrophobia of being in the car with their relationships. It's definitely sort of it's another character in the car, isn't it?
That's what I'm really happy you said that, because we were really going for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, that's great, and it was all crowdfunded. Was that?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I did put in some of my own money, as an initial sort of thing to sort of get the ball rolling. Because we had to do, casting, all these different things before we could actually start filming. But the majority of it was crowdfunded, which was lucky for me that I had an executive producer in Alexei Slater, who has done about 8 or 10 of these before, and he's done way more short films than I have. So he was very much the consigliere, as I like to call him, on the production of what we should do and get your timelines straight. And if ever you want to do a Kickstarter, you got to be thinking 60 days previously, and then all the content you're going to be pushing out during the Kickstarter itself, and making sure that you've always got something to talk about and things which are relevant. So you just make sure that we were tracking correctly and knocking on the right doors as well when it came to additional funding as well. So yeah, that was very beneficial, and a big sort of learning curve. I think on the next project I have, I'll definitely go back to the Google Drives that we have of this, and then sort of the steps that we took, and little mistakes that we made, and things that we could improve on. But it was definitely a very good sort of blueprint that I've learned from this one.
Oh, fantastic! Well, it's great, isn't it? It's great when you can learn something, and luckily, that went so well for you. All right, now I'm just going to ask a couple of random quick questions, just so we can get to know you a little bit better, Lewis. Who is your favourite director?
I would have to say, it's tough. You've got me sort of caught between like 1970s Francis Ford Coppola and Tarantino. Okay. But I'd probably say Tarantino, just because it's films that I think Reservoir Dogs was the first script I ever read, and it was written in a way which really sort of gave me another sort of viewpoint or perspective of that film.
Yes.
And I think that sort of really sort of got me into, oh wow, these scripts can actually be really engaging and entertaining, and your brain starts sort of seeing it on the screen and how he's piecing it together and things like that. And I think he made his best work in the 90s, to be fair, but I still very much, I think I answer your question this way because he's the only director I think whenever a film of his comes out, I'm definitely going to go and see it. I don't think there's another director apart from Scorsese right now, maybe, but I would say that about him.
Okay, fantastic. And if you could, which actor would you most love to work with?
Living or dead?
Either.
I would love to work with Al Pacino. He's been a hero of mine ever since I was a little kid. The work he made in the 70s, sort of seeing his sort of change in style throughout the years. I think he's someone that hopefully one day I get to meet, let alone work with.
Okay, and I'm going to ask no, I won't. What I'll ask is, do you have a favourite film?
It goes through phases. It's almost like it's almost like food. When someone asks you what your favorite food is, it really depends on what day of the week.
Yeah.
I think I always go back to a few films. The Godfather, for one. I'm always sort of constantly sort of deconstructing that film and seeing different things that they're doing and reading about it and video essays and all that stuff. I'm completely obsessed with that film. But I'd also say La Haine by Mathieu Kassovitz is a massive influence on me as well. I went to a French school growing up, and so that was a film that my older brothers would constantly have on VHS, and I'd watch that, and that again was a real sort of awakening into making really cool creative stuff on quite a low budget and things that feel really raw. I think that was one of the first films that I felt was really blurring the lines between fiction and documentary and the way that it's shot and the subject matter as well. So that's a very important film for me.
Yeah, well, brilliant. Thanks, Lewis. It's been great talking to you today, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll be
Pleasure.
back in a second with details of when the screening is and how you can buy tickets. But
Okay.
first, we are going to go and see a trailer from our sponsors, Free at Last TV. This is Agatha Raisin. Thank you. Thanks, Lewis.
No worries.
You can see Lewis's film Stationery on Tuesday the 14th of July. You can buy tickets at unrestrictedview.co.uk. Now here's a trailer from our sponsors at Free at Last TV for Agatha Raisin.
Death threats juicy enough for you?
I hope you're not the amateur busybody that the police say you are.
Right. Well, I'll show them. I thought I might take up a new hobby.
The mating dance. Hot and reckless.
I have something to confess.
Deadly. You all set on the plan?
All clear.
Mingle. Eyes. Ears.
Rogering that.
I can assure you that I can get to the bottom of this for a never so professional fee.